Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to our show, another episode, another interesting topic to talk about. This is something that we usually shun away. This is something that we just feel like we shouldn't talk about, but hey, we have to talk about it today. And of course, we have amazing people on the screen, just as you have seen. They are going to help us elaborate more and just give us lessons on what exactly we need to do when we find ourselves in situations that are beyond our control. Good afternoon and welcome to another episode rather of the Real Talk Show. Today we are discussing something very interesting, and the topic of discussion is turning silence into support. What kind of support do you need as a person going through mental health challenges? Well, it's all about mental health awareness, and we want to hear from you. And of course, we are going to hear from the guests on the screen. As you have seen, we have amazing faces here, and I bet you just came across the post which had interesting titles. And I feel like after this show, you should be able to approach some of these people, like the guests that we have on the show. You should be able to approach them and just get one or two information on what you need to know on mental health, and obviously some of the help that you might need. My name is Margaret Selemani, and I welcome you once again to another interesting episode of the Real Talk Show. So just as you have seen, I don't want to say more, I don't want to say less, but I'm going to give an opportunity to my guests to just introduce themselves, tell us their names, where they're coming from, and what exactly they are doing. So since we have three ladies today, I'm going to say ladies first, and of course I'm going to go with Jean. Jean, you can go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us your name and where you're coming from and what you basically do.
Hi, Margaret. Thank you so much for that introduction. My name is Jeannette Ilunga, but you can call me Jean, and I'm the president of the University of Zambia Psychology Association. I'm in my final year at the university, majoring in psychology. Outside of that, I love to do research, so I have some work I do in research, in ESG, and even in media reporting. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Jean. I will move to Stanley. Stanley, you can go ahead and tell us who you are.
Oh, hello, hi everyone. My name is Kapepa Stanley. I am a lawyer by profession, and I'm one of the founding members of Let's Cover Them Zambia, which is a non-profit movement by a couple of youths. And we make every year we organize ourselves and we do some philanthropic activities, such as going to an orphanage and donating stuff. And this year, one of our as a team, we have come to the conclusion that we need to help five vulnerable families from one of the communities within Lusaka. So that's just some of the things that we do. So if people are seeing this, they can go to our page, Let's Cover Them Zambia, and they can go and just look at some of the stuff that we do. Besides that, I am a reader. I am someone who is interested in lots of things, so such as music and a lot of other things. So yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you so very much for that introduction, Stanley. I will now move to Mr. Tailoka. Please, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, are you able to get me?
Yes, we can get you.
All right, so my name is Tailoka Chabala Ifo Elijah. I'm a mental health professional, and I'm a toxic relationships expert. In other words, I help people identify that they are in toxic relationships, and I also help them to leave toxic relationships. And most importantly, I tend to help people heal from toxic relationships. So basically, that's what I do. Thank you.
Interesting. I bet a lot of us will be able to contact you after this show. I mean, we want to know if we are in toxic relationships. Thank you so much for the introductions. And lastly, I'm going to introduce my sign language interpreter. You know, as TYP, we are an inclusion. We're so much big when it comes to inclusivity, and we ensure that each and every person is part of the show. We don't leave anyone behind. And so today we have Memory Zulu, who is helping us with sign language interpretation to our friends out there. So I'm very excited today because we have so many people in different fields, and obviously we're going to learn one or two things from what these people on the screen have for us today. Let me not forget to make mention that our online community, you are also part of this conversation. It's just pity that you cannot tell us your name, but you can actually tell us where you're watching us from, and keep the conversation going by asking questions to our people on the panel today, and just ensure that you respond to some of the questions and just give your contribution. You know, you are the people that makes this show run even up to this episode. So I'm going to go to Tailoka, since it seems to be my favorite person on the show at the moment. So Mr. Tailoka, we get to find that a lot of people hear about mental health and what it really is. Some don't even get to understand what mental health is, because we have a number of people that get to describe mental health in a very different way. But I would like to hear from you, like, help us understand what we should know about mental health.
Okay, I really like the question. And I must begin by acknowledging to say I also happen to be amongst the people who used to never relate. Every time I hear people tend to have conversations about mental health. And the reason is simple. It is because every time I heard people talk about mental health, they would always talk about things that I never used to relate to, right? You'd hear people talk about, these big words such as depression. You'd hear people talk about these big words such as, autism. And every time I heard, these people mention these words, I had to reach to two conclusions, right? The first conclusions that I made was definitely mental health is important. But then the second, conclusion that I had to make is that in as much as mental health is important, but it's not for everyone. Why? Because at the end of the day, I'm not someone who is battling with depression. So in as much as this is important, but it's just for specific people, those people are battling with depression, those people are battling with maybe autism and other mental health disorders that we can talk about. Now, if there's someone who is listening to me right now and they feel like they are in the same shoes, while they feel like they are not able to relate, they don't, like, maybe they tend not to relate every time people tend to talk about mental health. Here's how I'm going to talk about mental health in a way that you'll be able to relate. And I am going to do this by posing a question. And the question is this: do you know that mental health is one of the tools, if not the only tool, that can be used to understand relationships? I think this is the most important question that people need to consider asking themselves. Mental health is one of the tools that we can use to understand relationships. So if at all there's someone who is listening to me right now and you have been questioning God, asking God why, why you have been jumping from one man to another, and why your relationships haven't been working out, I am here to tell you, that's not a spiritual issue. The issue that you're facing right now is actually an issue that can be understood when you take seriously the idea of learning one or two things about mental health. So in other words, what I'm telling people is that mental health is not just about depression. Mental health is also about you just understanding the things that you tend to do regarding your love life. Those people who say they struggle when it comes to letting go of a toxic partner. In order for you to understand the reason why that is the case, mental health can help you understand that. There are people who say they easily get attached when they get into relationships. I'm also here to tell you to say mental health is one of the tools that can help you understand the reason why that is the case. Those people having trust issues, whatever you tend to deal with regarding relationships, I am here to tell you to say mental health is one of the tools that can be used to help you understand that. And I feel like, knowing that this is a youth platform, I want to believe to say almost each and every person who is following this program right now, you have got a history regarding relationships. And because of this, I believe to say, if people were to understand that mental health is also one of the tools that can be used to understand relationships, I feel like people can start relating every time we tend to talk about mental health. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so very much for that, Tailoka. I feel like the floor is already hot. The floor is already hot. We're already in relationships. We're already in what we are facing at the moment. Thank you so much for that explanation on mental health. You know, when we look at issues to do with mental health, a number of people get to think it in a different way. Like we get to understand it in different ways. If somebody says, I'm going through a mental health challenge, somebody would think I'm going mad because we don't just really understand what mental health really is. Thank you so much for that explanation. So I would go to Jean. Jean, Mr. Tailoka has mentioned a number of things on mental health and how best we can just identify and things that we need to know on mental health and understand it better. So I would like you to just tell us, like, you've been a lady, and obviously when you are somebody who is in school, and this is something that is currently happening in school, like a number of young adolescents and adolescent girls and young women, they get to view mental health in a different way or in a different perspective. So I would like you to just help us understand how do most people in the community view mental health related issues amongst adolescent girls and young women.
Okay, thank you for that question, Margaret. And I hope everybody can hear me clearly. So when you're looking at mental health and how it's viewed amongst young people, I think young people are very much aware about mental health, its impact. They are more aware than the older generation are. And they very much know that when I feel this way, something is wrong with my mind. But the problem is how, when they approach somebody who's older, could be a parent, and they tell them, I'm going through this. The parent, the older generation, may view it as this person lacks resilience. This person is too soft. This person wants life to cut them some slack. And because of the response that they get, you find people are less likely to actually go out there and get the help that they need. So you'll find that in a group of people, everybody knows that depression is real, anxiety is real, and so many other disorders. But then the likelihood of them getting help because of the views they see from their parents or uncle, and even with their fellow young people, is a bit negative. So they're going to kind of shy away from getting the help they need. So the community itself kind of has tiers in terms of how they view mental health. There are those who acknowledge it, there are those who disregard it completely, and there are those who acknowledge it and actually act on kind of encouraging people to get help, and they get help themselves, and they know how important it is.
Thank you so much, Jean. You know, when we talk about mental health, just as Tailoka mentioned at first, to say, at times you don't just get to understand it. And in the process of not understanding it, it becomes very hard for us to get help, especially from people who do not fully understand what mental health is and what it can lead into. So it's very important, in as much as we get to find ourselves in situations like that, to at least find somebody you can talk to about it. Because especially when it comes to schools, like a number of people are depressed in schools, but then they don't really know how to go about it, and they don't just have an idea of where exactly they can get help from. Well, to our online community, we are here and we are waiting for you to let us know where you're watching us from and tell us how best somebody can deal with mental health challenges. Should they keep it to themselves? Should they see somebody, or they should seek spiritual cleansing? Well, thank you so much for that, Jean. And I'm going to go to Stanley. So Stanley, you mentioned that you are one person who is currently you are the founder, or somebody who is running is it a foundation? And mostly you deal with the community. in as much as Jean has mentioned something that has to do with the community and especially the adolescent girls and young people, I would like you to tell us the role that the community can play in just helping to end the stigma around mental health.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. So I'm one of the people that, so just for some clarity, I'm one of the founding members of a non-profit. It's a movement at the point. It's not really an organization. It's just a couple of youths coming together for a good cause. So, but one of the things that we have to talk about when we talk about mental health is the community is one of the biggest causes of the issues that we have with mental health. You see, so a lot of these issues that we have, they stem from multiple issues, such as the social setting in which we come from, the poverty levels, the stigma that is attached, and the community plays a big role in ensuring that mental awareness is addressed. The community can come together by creating an enabling space in which people are free and have a space in which they can talk about these issues without the fear of a stigma of being attacked or having the fear that you'll be judged if you have any mental illness. So one of the things that the community really has to do is create a space in which people can openly talk about their mental health. We have to treat our mental health the same way we treat our physical health. Groups such as the churches, youth groups, schools, community leaders, health posts have to create systems where people can openly go there and address issues, and they will not be judged. And it will be if community leaders actually come to the forefront and encourage people to actually address these issues. It is easy for people to come and say, oh, Margaret is a leader in my community, and they talked about this. I can talk about it because if she went through it, then it's normal. Even I, Stanley, who is just a community member, it's okay for me to go through such things. So yeah, that's some of the one of the roles that the community can play.
Yeah, what you said is something really true, especially looking at the fact that even the people that we're talking about, people that are going through mental health challenges, are coming from the community, and this is where the barrier is, or the major problem is, because we are depressed and we're coming from a community where people think of depression to be something that they don't really take seriously. Not until somebody commits suicide, that's when they'll be able to understand that this person was actually depressed at the end of the day. Thank you so much for that, Stanley. I'm going to go back to Tailoka. So Tailoka, away from being a toxic relationship expert, now let us talk to you as a mental health specialist. So many people think, so we find that many people still think that somebody dealing with depression or any mental health challenges, that person is weak. Like this person is considered to be weak. So now when we get to look at that, how does that kind of thinking affect the person who is dealing with mental health issues? Like how does that kind of thinking affect people who are struggling silently?
Oh, yeah. I like the question, and I'm going to begin by quoting words that goes like, "What people do not understand, they are often judge," right? And this is always the case with mental health issues. I always feel like we have got a number of people who know nothing or little about mental health, which puts them in a position where every time they tend to maybe say one or two things about mental health, they tend to say it in a way that is negative, right? But then the truth of the matter is that it tends to affect people, especially the people who are having mental health issues, right? Like depression, like you have already put it. Because people battling with mental health issues, they are not just battling with the mental disorder rather that they have, but then they're also battling with the stigma that comes with whatever they are going through, right? So the truth of the matter is that it tends to affect people, right? It tends to affect them a lot to the point where they shy away from opening up about the things that they are going through. They tend to keep stuff to themselves. And I normally tell people to say, we're now living at a time when depression doesn't always look like sadness and crying. We're now living at a time when depression can also look like happiness and smiling, right? And what this means is that we are now living at a time when it's nearly impossible to just look at someone and make a conclusion that this person may be having mental health issues, right? And the reason why I want to use this as an example is simple. It's because one thing that I've noticed about Zambians is that Zambians are selectively compassionate. I don't know if there's such a thing. And what I mean by this is, Zambians are going to be nice to those people who look like they are suffering, right? So if a person can also come to me and I was able to tell, say maybe this person may be having mental health issues, it can be easy for me to be nice to that person, right? But then once we understand that it's not everyone who is battling mental health issues who is showing it, then we become intentional with our way of dealing with people. Because there are people who look okay from the outside, but then they are battling mental health issues, right? They are having depression, they are having anxiety, and they are going through all those things that people, or many things rather, that people are having mental health issues tend to go through, right? And the truth of the matter is that when we choose to be negative, even as we talk about mental health issues, we make it hard for these very people to maybe come in the public and talk about the struggles that they go through. And the truth of the matter is that there are a number of people who are going through these issues, right? So we have got people, let me say this, we have got those people who want to talk about the things that they are going through. And we have got also those people who don't even want to talk about the things that they are going through, right? Now, if those people would want to talk about the things that they are going through, to come in the public and talk about those things, it would be easier for those people who don't want to talk about those things to be, to find a way of coping with everything that they may be going through, right? But then, as people who have got negative belief systems about mental health issues, we make it hard for any of this to take place. Not necessarily because depression, when someone has got depression, maybe they are weak or anything. No, but because of the simple fact, which is we have got little or no information about mental health issues, making it hard for ourselves to say the right things that are supposed to be said, maybe to the people maybe having these challenges. I think that's what I can say.
Thank you so much for that, Tailoka. So you have mentioned a number of things, and most of the times you get to find that people get to suffer silently. Not because they do not want to open up, but because of the environments where they find themselves in. And at the end of the day, it's very difficult for them to just open up and just talk about these things. But remember, our topic today is turning the silence into support. At the end of this, we want to see communities that are supporting people that are struggling with mental health challenges. We want to see a number of young people are going to stand up and just be able to help the other young person out there who is suffering from mental health challenges. I have seen that our online community is on fire in our comment section, and I have seen a number of you are following us from Kitwe, Chipata, from Choma, Mofat, we've seen you from Choma, we have seen Odita from Choma, and I have a comment here from Odita, and the comment reads, hey, I feel mental health is very important to everyone looking at what is happening in our community. Looking at what is happening in our community is that people are really suffering a lot, and feel there is a lot of need to be done around adolescents and young people, because we are preaching about mental health issues, but people are really suffering from people are really suffering from these problems. It's good that a lot of people are listening to this beautiful program. Otherwise, a lot needs to be done by us young people. I'm enjoying the program. Keep it up, team. Thank you so very much, Odita Mono, for that interesting and yet insightful comments that you have given us. Indeed, we as young people are the ones who are supposed to stand up and just put an end to these mental health related challenges, because when we talk about mental health, we are finding that a number of people, like majority of people, are not free to talk about these things. And mostly it's because of the environment where we're coming from, the spaces where we're finding ourselves in. We have people depressed in workplaces, in schools. Wherever you go, you would find that a person is depressed, but they do not have anybody to talk about. This now leads me to another question that I want to ask Jane. So Jane, I'm back to you, and Tailoka mentioned a number of things on how best this mental health is affecting a lot of us as young people, especially in the sense that we are being silent, we are not talking about it. But when we talk about it in the community's perspective, how is the community making mental health challenges sound to be worse than it is? Or they make it worse without even realizing that they're actually making this very hard for us?
Okay, so that's one, a very interesting question. And secondly, it's a question that has more than one answer. But for now, I'm going to stick to two. And I don't think we have time, we can do three. So the first one is that across the Zambian culture, we are more reactive than we are responsive. So what does that mean? It means that outside of mental health, you see it in where people are very, they procrastinate a lot, right? Something is due today, Zambian as we are, we're going to push and push and push until the last day when now we have to react and not respond. That trickles down to how we handle everything and even mental health. You will not respond to someone telling you I'm depressed, or even the symptoms they exhibit. Someone is not getting out of bed. All of a sudden, a very active person is doesn't want to do stuff. And for some people, I think somebody mentioned that they can express happiness. There's something called what is the word? It's depression when somebody is still able to do what they're supposed to do. And when we see so many symptoms, we'll be like, you know, those things, they don't really matter. He'll be okay. It's just a season. And sometimes it's in Bemba. You know, but they are real. And we'll end up reacting when they kill themselves or when they're in very bad situations, but not responding to the little signals that they were giving off to the thing that was happening. The other thing is even just the structure of our communities. Zambia is a Christian nation, and that's a very good thing. However, a lot of challenges that can be fixed by simply talking to someone. You tell somebody, go and pray. Someone tells you, I'm going through this, you're not praying enough. You're not doing something enough. That's making things very much worse. So you find that because of the environment itself, one, not being supportive, two, a culture that doesn't support somebody that is calling out for help, nothing gets done, and it makes things very much worse. I have seen people who they are working, or they're even the students, and the term I was looking for was high functioning depression, where something is happening, you're depressed, but you're still functioning, you still show up to events, you still show up to work or school, and you do your various roles, and you do them really, really well, but something is bad inside. So our communities make them worse by one, being reactive instead of responsive, waiting to the very last result to do something about what someone is going through. And secondly, being more laid back about these issues where you don't consider them as important, because when somebody is sick, physically sick, they have a cold or a flu, you tell them, go to the hospital, get this medication. What happens to the brain? We don't consider it, yet everything that we do comes from the brain. So it stems down to our responses as a community, and even how we view the structures around how we view mental health. That's what contributes to communities making it worse for people, not just young people, older people as well.
Thank you so much for that, Jane. I like the fact that you have highlighted something that really happens, especially in our households, where you see that this person, this is a very active person. Like Margaret is an active person. Like every time she's moving around, she's doing things, but then all of a sudden this person just gets to be in a room and she's not doing anything. Like she just distances herself from from the community, from everybody else, and the people that are around her, they don't take interest in just knowing what exactly is happening. Not until this person takes their own life. Like when this person is dead, that's when they'll be like, oh, that's the reason why this person was locking herself in the room. I feel like this is something that also the community should also come to pay attention to, especially when we see a change of pattern in behavior of certain people, because there's no person as somebody can just change how they behave. And you look at that to be something which is very okay and something that is normal. Thank you so much for that highlight, Jane. So I'm going to move to Stanley. Jane mentioned something really interesting where she touched a little bit on how when somebody's going through something and how best they can just try to at least get help. And not exactly what she said, but I'm just relating it to getting help and getting therapy. You know, it's very funny how we portray mental health to be among ourselves. When a person is going through mental health challenges and they decide to say they want to seek therapy, people will be looking at you like you're a mad person, because now the only thing that we understand when somebody talks about therapy is that you're going mad and there's something wrong with you. So now, why is it important for people to understand that seeking help is actually very healthy, and it's actually a very healthy step to take when you're dealing with mental health challenges?
Okay, thank you, Margaret. You know, you've just reminded me of something that my friends, when I was in school, we used to laugh and say, my friends used to say, therapy is for white people. So, but you know, someone going for therapy does not mean they're mad. Someone going for counseling does not mean they're mad. You know, mental health issues are part of everyday life. You know, just like the way we get sick every day. You know, you have a flu, you go to the clinic, you get some medication. Going for therapy, the mind as well gets tired. You know, and the mind is a very important tool for you to function well in life. So it also has to be kept well. You know, you have to treat it. So going for counseling, going for therapy is something that should be normal. You know, counseling and therapy help people get through a lot of issues such as depression, such as anxiety, a lot of mental health issues. You know, mental health has so many different forms. Just like my colleague here, Tailoka, said, usually people that are going through stuff, it's not always the ones that show it, that, oh, I'm going through stuff, the ones that post about it. There are people that actually have mental health issues and they are suffering inside. You know, the ability of someone going to seek help shows their awareness and the desire to actually be healthy and to deal with these mental health issues that they have in a healthy way. You know, dealing with a problem before it becomes an actual problem is the best way. So no one should ever be looking at someone because they went to therapy or they went for counseling that they are mad. No. They are dealing with something before it actually becomes a problem. You prevent it. You know, if you see a spark, you actually close it up before it turns into a fire.
Thank you so much. You know, it's I don't know what I can say. I don't know if I should say it's very disappointing or it's very funny how we just get to handle these issues. And looking at the topic today, turning silence, like we want to bridge the gap. Like we don't want people to be silent. We want people to speak up. We want to have communities where people can have conversations with people about whatever that they are going through. We do not want to be in situations where you are with this person today and tomorrow you lose this person. Why? Because this person was unable to talk about certain things, because this person was unable to open up because of the environment that we're finding ourselves in. So in as much as we are looking at such things, we should also put into consideration of giving an environment, having an environment where people can freely talk about certain things that are affecting them. Sometimes you might not even know that you're going through a mental health challenge, but then because of the pattern of your behavior, like she mentioned earlier to say there are other people that can be depressed, but they're very active with what they are doing, and you're not going to know about it at the end of the day. You're not going to know about it because they are active, they are moving, and when something happens, that's when you'll be like, oh, this person seems to be okay, but what happened? So those are the things that we looking at today. So I'm going to move back to, okay, I have a comment from my online community. And this comment is from Mercy, and she says, hey, my question is, why is mental health important for community development? 2, what are the effects of ignoring mental health problems? 3, how can community members work together to promote mental health wellness? Thank you so very much for that. I hope we got those questions. And okay, so since we have 3 guests here, I'm going to give each guest a question to respond to. So I'll give the first one. Why is mental health important for our community development? I'll give this one to Stanley. And then what, Rachel, just put that for me. And then the other one will be, what are the effects of ignoring mental health problems? This one is for Jean. And then the last one is, how can community members work together to promote mental wellness? So maybe Jean can start first, and then we move to Stanley, and Tailoka will be the last one to respond to that.
Sorry, can you just pin the question back on again? That's question 2, no? Okay, so
why is mental health important for community development?
Oh, I thought I actually gave it to Tailoka, but that's fine. Okay, Mercy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I'm the one who's confused now here. So your question is, what are the effects of ignoring mental health problems?
Okay, thank you. And Mercy, thank you so much for asking that question. So the effects are quite obvious. Imagine when we had COVID-19, a very infectious disease, everybody was affected. People were told to put masks on, people were told to get vaccinated, people were told to stay home if they could, so that if they're sick, they could heal properly and then be better for the next person when they go outside there. Mental health is the same thing. If I'm mentally unwell, even though the brain is in my head, it won't show. How I interact with people can heavily impact them and how they will interact with other people. So I like to look at it this way. If I'm unwell, maybe I'm going through something really, really bad, and I'm one of those people that tends to have a very bad attitude about everything and that is happening. And then I come to you, Mercy, and just like, hi, Jeannette, how are you? How are you doing? And like, can you leave me alone? And I just say the meanest things to you, right? Maybe you are going through something of your own, and then you now go, that one thing I've said weighs so heavily on you, and you have a lot of things going on. What happens? You commit suicide. Taking it back to COVID-19, when somebody has COVID, imagine for me, I just have COVID. Maybe you have COVID, you are maybe diabetic and even have high blood pressure. Me giving you the COVID virus makes whatever you're going through even so much worse, meaning you're more vulnerable. So it's something that when we don't take care of it, it affects people from person to person. So it's just like the virus. If I don't take care of my health for you, you cannot take care of your health for the next person. Even worse, when you have it, when you are affected by something, you end up being in a position that makes you very much vulnerable to anything that happens around you. So I would say that your mental health is your responsibility, but it's also a duty you have to the next person, because what you say or do from that kind of state affects somebody else very much deeply. So when you know you're going through something, the best you can do is maybe go and seek help, because you seeking help will save somebody else. And try to better yourself in a certain way, you know. You never know how what you are going to end up impacting somebody else.
Thank you so much for that, Jill. Stanley, we can go ahead with Tailoka, and then we end it with Stanley.
Okay, what's my question? Can you repeat my question?
Okay, so your question is how can community members work together to promote mental wellness?
Okay, this is really a good question, right? And there are a number of things that we can say when it comes to community working together, to promote mental health. And the first thing that I am going to say is this: when it comes to promoting mental health, this is not just a duty of mental health professionals to promote mental health, right? I think this is the mistake. Rather, this is something. This is a misconception rather that many people have. People tend to assume that it's just the duty of mental health professionals, counselors, therapists, psychologists, and other people who are operating in this space. Many people tend to assume that it's just these people's duty to promote mental health. But then we have to understand that we all have got a role to play in this, right? And how can we do this? By doing simple things such as what we're doing right now, right? TYP has created this platform. Every Friday they tend to, host, such programs where we're talking about mental health, right? This is something that we can also do in our communities, right? The same, I've seen politicians hosting, football games, right? We can also decide, like we can also start hosting, such events where we tend to gather as a community and have conversations about mental health. This is one of the tools, or rather one of the things that we can tend to do when it comes to promoting mental health, right? Now, the one thing that I'm going to focus on when it comes to addressing this question is this, and that is the idea of understanding to say we can all take part in doing this, in promoting mental health rather on an individual level, right? How do we do this? There's a saying that goes like, if you can't change the whole world, you can change the whole world for just 1%, right? So what that means is that if you were to become intentional with just that 1% that you tend to meet maybe on a daily basis, it can be, let's say maybe if you're a student, your roommate, you don't need to go and find someone online on social media so that you can be nice with, you can be nice to them. No, just your roommate, right? Mental health is not necessarily about sitting down with someone. If you heard me very well, what I mentioned when we began our conversation, I had to simplify mental health in a way that every person can relate to, right? So mental health is not just about sitting down, then we start talking about depression, anxiety, and all those things. Mental health is just as simple as sitting down with someone, maybe a friend, and just give them a listening ear. You start listening to whatever they are talking about. As simple as that, right? That's something that tends to change the world for just 1%. Just 1%. So for me, what it takes to build, or rather to promote mental health in our communities is by making sure that each and every person who is found in any community to become intentional with the way they tend to interact with the next person. I think if we are all to be, if we are all to decide to become intentional with our approach when it comes to dealing with people, I think we can achieve the goal of promoting mental health. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for that explanation. I don't want to say much about it because most of the things have been mentioned. So we're going to move to Stanley, and your question was the first one: why is mental health important for community development? Stanley, you can go ahead.
All right, thank you. So you see, mental health, just like I had stated earlier, it's the social well-being of a person, the well-being, the social well-being of the community itself. It plays a key role in a lot of issues, even in the development of our community. A community which is connected, which is put together, will ensure that there's emotional support, There's addressing of issues such as supporting people achieving their mental health goals, such as just going for therapy. If people are not well, there is very little chance of success in that community. If we're all affected, if we're all sick, how can we develop? No one will achieve their goals. Because if I set the goal that I want, for example, if I want to make a project somewhere and I want to achieve this goal, if I am not well, then that goal will just die. So the fact that mental health, a community with goals, so the people are well. So that is I have to say on that.
Great. Indeed, it's all about the community being healthy and its people being healthy. That's when we can be able to just have developments in that community. Thank you so much for that, Stanley. We still have more comments in the comment section. Our online community today is just on fire. So I have another comment. Oh, and I hope we have responded to your questions, Mercy. Thank you so much for those questions. And the other, I have another comment here and says, this topic is great. This topic is a great topic that has been long overdue. Because the people, we have a lot of Ubuntu in us, making it difficult to talk to the next person about what and where one is mentally. Mental health is highly neglected, especially here in our country and and continent at large. You can tell just by the number of psychotherapists we have in the country and how the topic is visited the therapist. How the topic is visiting a therapist is looked at. Thank you so very much for that comment, Basti. Okay, so I have another one from Feb Namzi, and it says, hey, this is favored Namyanza from Ndola. My question is, what would you say about people who are suffering from depression? What's this word now? Derealization, oh my God, disorder, because people suffering from this do not really show, but it's something that causes someone to change themselves either positively or negatively. Thank you so much. Please use the English we can read, or use the English we can read. So thank you so much. I don't know if this question, if amongst our guests we have one who would like to respond to this question. Depersonalization, oh my goodness, depersonalization. So this question goes like, hey, this is flavored Namyanza from Nanyang, favored from Ndola. My question is, what would you say about people who are suffering from depersonalization, derealization disorder, and the other one goes like, because these people are suffering from this, don't really show, but it's something that causes someone to change. Okay, thank you so very much for that question. So I would throw that question to Tailoka. Tailoka, are you ready to respond to that?
Yes, I can try responding to the question.
Please go ahead.
I can go ahead. All right.
Yes, please.
That big word is, it was my first time seeing the word. But when it comes to responding to the question, what I am going to say to the person who asked the question is this, and that is, you have to understand that for something to be called a mental health disorder, then it will always come with symptoms, right? So it doesn't matter whether those symptoms are hard to identify or they are not hard to identify. I like what you said that the last, like when you read the whole question, at the end of the question, there was, it tends to affect someone positively or negatively, right? So which means that there will always be symptoms that are going to be shown in whatever you're going through, right? So what now determines whether you are going through something or not is that the changes, right? Or rather, what I'm trying to imply by this is this. I'm trying to help her understand that, I don't know if it's her, but I'm trying to help her understand that for someone to be qualified to be having a mental health disorder, it's because the way they used to behave maybe in the past is no longer how they are behaving now, right? So once you see the change from how you used to behave in the past and how you're behaving now, you should take that seriously. It doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative. Once you focus on that, I think it will be easier for you to even consider the idea of seeking professional help, because you'll be able to say, okay, I never used to be the person that I am right now. So what has changed about me? So in other words, what I'm just trying to say is that there's a need of being curious in whatever you're going through, right? When you're curious, curiosity is what's now going to push you to even maybe consider seeking professional help, so that a mental health professional can be able to help you, get you diagnosed, so to say. So the point is, it's not possible for you to diagnose yourself. It doesn't matter whether what you're going through is something that can easily be identified by any person or it can't easily be identified. The truth is that a person who is not a mental health professional doesn't have what it takes to diagnose themselves. So the only thing that you can do is when you notice that what you're going through is something that is different from what you've been going through all this while, if you notice those changes, consider seeking professional help so that a mental health professional can be able to have conversations with you and be able to diagnose you. I don't know if I've responded to the question.
I bet you have. Thank you so very much. And I hope that response to Faith, I hope that response is clear to you with depending with the question that you just asked. So I have another comment here and says, this is from Andrew, and Andrew is saying, why do some communities believe mental illness is caused by witchcraft? Okay, by witchcraft. I had this question, but still, we're still going to give it to the person who's supposed to respond to it. And how can culture beliefs affect help-seeking behavior? And the other one is, can prayer and counseling work together in supporting mental health? So I have a number of questions here. There are about 4 or 5 of them. And then how can communities reduce stigma around mental health and HIV? Okay, so the first question, which is, why do some communities believe in mental illness? Why do some communities believe mental illness is caused by witchcraft? This one goes to Tailoka. So we are running out of time, so Ed, as much as you're giving your answer, ensure that it's brief, so that we can respond to all the questions that are coming from our online community. Tailoka, you can go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just going to brief
Okay, and we've lost Tailoka. When he was about to give us an answer, we have lost him. So we can still continue, and probably Stanley would help us understand this aspect of the community believing that mental health is caused by witchcraft. Please help us understand that perspective and how best we can address it.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. So you see, one of the main issues that we have, like was stated earlier, is the community plays a huge role in mental health. And one of the biggest issues that we have in Zambia is that there has been a lot of stigma around mental health. There has been this belief that people that have mental health issues are mad. So also the fact that we are Africans and witchcraft has been associated with a lot of things. So anything that we think is marvel to us is caused by witchcraft. That's why we fight everything with witchcraft. Or if Margaret were to become a millionaire today, Margaret is a witch. Where did she get $1 million? It's one of the things that the community has just attached to witchcraft. So it's just one of those stigmas that is attached to this great issue that we have. But otherwise, mental health has nothing to do with witchcraft. You know, people, a lot of things affect people's mental health. People drink a lot. You know, people have pressure. People have anxiety. People are demotivated. People procrastinate. All these are signs of people that are suffering from mental health issues. But as a community, if we are going to look at mental health as something that is just caused by someone bewitching you, then we're wrong as a community.
Yeah, and I feel like a number of people, maybe lack of a better term, I would say their mental health has gone to an extent where maybe they've gone mad, not because it's because of witchcraft, but it's because we didn't take the the necessary measures that we needed to take before it got waste to that point. And I feel like that's just something that we should be looking out for in the community. You know, we believe so much in witchcraft, and at the end of the day, it's affecting most of us. That's why we're turning the silence into support. When you find something like that is happening in your community, you need to be well aware that this is not something that has to do with witchcraft or whatsoever, but it's something that really needs help and something that we need to address as quickly as possible. Thank you so much for that, Stanley. So if we can have the comment on the screen again, so that Jean can also at least respond to one of those questions that we have. So we have a comment from Kimberly, and Kimberly says support starts with understanding what mental health is. Support starts with understanding that mental health is deeply affected by the environment around us. In my community, it is common to hear people say "kuko safie" to someone struggling with mental health, which can make people suffer in silence instead of seeking help. Thank you so very much for that comment, Kimberly. Of course, we still have more comments that are coming from our online community. You can still keep them coming, and we are going to read them right here. If we had a comment that had a number of questions on it. I think it was from Andrew. Yes, thank you so much. So this comment says we've responded to the first one, and Jean, if you can respond to the second one, which says how can culture beliefs affect help-seeking behavior?
Okay, thank you very much, Margaret. I was just trying to write down the questions as they're coming. So cultural beliefs play a very big role in how we view mental health entirely. And so if a certain culture believes that mental health is something to not be talked about, I think going back to the last question, which I'd have loved to answer, talking about why do we view mental health as witchcraft. So most of the mental health cases you see, which end up going to Chinama, it's something called schizophrenia. So where someone has literally just lost their mind, they have gone mad. And a lot of times, I think you would believe that for someone to go mad like that, somebody is feeling jealous of them in the community, and they do something like that. So I think that's why it's been closely tied to witchcraft, because with schizophrenia, you can't function. You have completely lost your mind and you're an entirely different person. So now going back to that. So if you see from that very example, cultural beliefs affect how we view mental health. So pardon me, can you just bring it back up? I digressed and lost track of the question entirely.
Okay, can we have the comment on the screen again, so that we can so it's basically what just talking about how can the culture beliefs affect help seeking behavior.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I digressed. I was trying to answer the previous question. So with cultural beliefs, if a certain culture believes that something is not, it's not a usual thing, it's not natural, we either disregard it completely, which is we don't pay attention to it, what is coming from whatever, or we just think it's not as important. So as a human being, if my belief is that for me, culture is formed from the different beliefs of different people within a community. If, as Jeannette, I believe that mental health is not a real thing, and that I just have to have that course of attitude, meaning when something happens that genuinely affects my mental health, I'll not take it into consideration. And that means then what I believe for myself, I'll believe for the next person. So when we as a community adopt that culture where mental health for us is not a real thing, then even it means that even with the bigger community, the larger community, how we tend to handle those cases, it's going to reflect from how we see it to begin with. I can give an example of the church I go to. I think they recognize that mental health is a very important thing to the extent that they even offer counseling services for people who feel like they don't have anywhere to go. And a church has a large group of people, age groups that is. They have the very much older people, they have the millennials, they have the Gen Zs, everybody is there. So if everyone is saying that the church is taking mental health in a serious way, they then adopt that culture. And even with people who don't go to that church from their different homes, they'll see, okay, culture is changing, culture is shifting. So let me also adopt a different way of looking at mental health. So yes, culture very much affects how we view mental health. And culture is not just the community as a whole. Culture is different people. So if different people change how they view it, then the community at large will also change how they view and receive it.
Thank you so very much for that. I've seen we have gone overboard with time, but we have to wind up. But as we are winding up, I'm glad that Tailoka is back so that he can respond to this one. Jean has mentioned the aspect of having the church where we have different age groups, and of course we are having sessions whereby people can have information on mental health and they can be helped at the end of the day. I saw a question on Andrew. Can we have Andrew's comment again? This one I would like it to go to Tailoka, and this question is the last one, which says, can prayer and counseling work together in supporting mental health? I would like you, Tailoka, I would like you to respond to this one. And the last one that you're responding to is, how can the community reduce stigma around mental health and HIV? Tailoka, you can go ahead.
Okay. I like the question. Okay. All right. All right. I really like the first question. Can prayer and counseling work together in supporting mental health? And the answer is yes, right? Prayer and counseling can work together, but the most important.
Did we just lose Tailoka? Okay, I think we've lost him. Oh my goodness. And it feels like he has an answer. He has that answer he wants to give us. But because of the network, it has kicked him out. Sorry for that. Stanley, would you like to check that out?
Yeah, definitely. I think I can share my 2 cents on that. So can prayer and counseling work together? Definitely. Sure, definitely. Counseling, someone, like I said earlier, someone going for counseling just shows their self-awareness, their desire, and their knowledge on wanting to be well in a healthy way. And prayer, on the other hand, we're a Christian nation. I don't know, I speak for myself. I don't know about others, but I am Christian. And coming from the home that I come from, my mother always told me that Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior, and anything that I want to achieve in life, I need to kneel before God and seek and ask God. So say, Lord, through your Son Jesus Christ, can you help me through this? And God will find ways of helping me, because God works through people. So God will never come down to earth himself and say, oh, Stanley, do this. He will find someone to work through. So one of the ways that prayer will help me is if I pray to God and say, God, I want to help myself become better. I'm going through this depression and only you can heal me. God will identify people that will come in my life, that will guide me, that can show me ways and say, oh, I took this person to school to go and become a counselor. They can help you through this process. That is God working in my life. So those two can definitely work together. So yeah.
Thank you so very much. I can see Tailoka is back on the call, but I don't know if he's able to hear us. Tailoka, are you able to hear us? Okay, it seems like Tailoka is having some network challenges, and if we still have more comments, we can read them quickly as we wrap up. We are running out of time, so I have another question. I don't know if it's a question, but it's a comment, and it says, today's take home should be to be a brother or a sister's keeper. Let us be less judgmental and more open-minded when it comes to mental health issues toward ourselves and others. Talk to someone, seek professional help, exercise, meditate, do anything and everything to help you mentally, because mental wellness is equally important. Thank you for that comment, Basti. Thank you so very much for that. That's an encouragement. Everybody should do that. When you find yourself you're depressed and you can't do certain things, you can exercise, you can talk to somebody, and you can equally seek therapy at the end of the day. So I have another one from Olivia Mono, and it says mental health starts at a young age. We just don't notice it. That's true. Thank you so very much for that, Olivia. And our online community today has been so amazing. You've been giving us questions, and I hope most of the questions that you've been asking have been responded to by our guests. But as we wrap up, I'm going to ask, I'm not going to be fair if I ask one person, but I'll ask both of you. So I will start with gents first at this point. We are going with gents first. Stanley, what are your last words to the young people who are struggling with mental health challenges out there?
Thank you, Margaret. So my last thoughts, I would just love to say, you matter. We care about you. Go out and speak to someone. You know, if you feel like prayer is the best that thing that can work for you, go out and speak to a pastor. They'll sit with you. They'll stand with you in the gap. From me, I would love to say seek professional help. You can go out and see a therapist. You can seek counseling. We can pray together. And one thing you should always know is you are someone that is appreciated in this society. There's a role for you to play. Your mental health matters. Please, if you are going through something, do not take your life. Speak to someone next to you, you know? And I'll quote something from the Bible because, like I said, we are children of God. So the Bible says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. So God thought that you are worth it so much that he gave you his only son to save you. So just know that you matter.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for that, Stanley. You matter. As a young person who's watching, you matter. see you matter. When you have something that is going on and you can't really talk to anybody about it, try and find ways that you can seek therapy. Try and find ways that are going to help you. We had a suggestion in the comment section where somebody said you can exercise, but exercising sometimes might not be enough. The only thing that you might need is talking to somebody. You matter and we love you. Would like to see you here with us. I can see that Tailoka is back on the call. Tailoka, can you hear us, or the network is still kicking you out? Okay, it seems like Tailoka is not with us. It seems like the network is not being fair on him. It seems like he has a lot to tell us, but the network on his end is not stable. But overall, I would like to say thank you so very much to the guests that we had today. You've been amazing guests. You've highlighted a number of things that we can look out for, especially when we're dealing with mental health challenges and what exactly we need to do. And the community at large, where we're coming from, obviously, we have heard what exactly we need to do in order to just help other people who are in such situations. Thank you so much, Stanley, for making time to just be here and discuss this important topic with us. And thank you so much for being the last standing guest and your network just being stable. Thank you so very much to our online community for the comments, the contributions, wherever you're watching us from. We appreciate you and we love you so much because you are the ones who make this show to be possible. Until next time, next week, Friday, same time, same place, with the same guest, not the same guest, with the same host, and of course with a different and yet interesting topic. Bye-bye. See you all.
Bye.